Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your feet. It is time to have a look at the updated server updates from the other day. We talked about it, the good old economy changes that they were bringing in. We went through all of the different stuff. They were slightly decreasing repair costs across the board for a lot of vehicles, and then also decreasing reward modifiers. Then there was other parts, such as aviation, where they were increasing repair costs and also increasing reward modifiers. So pretty much in line with what they've been doing for the last year or so. Some people disagree with it, others don't. We talked about this previously. When you have a decision which is a 55-45 split or a 60-40 split, what you end up having is a very large vocal minority. And the vocal minority doesn't think they're the vocal minority, which is completely fine, but it just is how it is. Most people don't even care about this stuff at the end of the day. They just play the game. But the one thing that has to be understood is even though it's a vocal minority, it still has to be adhered to. At the end of the day, as a company, you want to try and make everybody happy, even though it's impossible to do, so therefore you have to be shown to do something. Today, what Gaijin has shown is that they do listen to the community, or at least the vocal parts of it. Now, they have done for many years. This is another example of this. So when people turn around and say that they don't listen to the community, please point this out once again, just like a bunch of other stuff that they've done, so we can stop having that conversation and move on to better ones. Let's go through verbatim what it says, just to kind of go through it. Dear players, the recently proposed economy changes, according to calculations, are on average helpful to players as they reduce the repair costs and the total amounts of research points for most vehicles. We wrote more about this in our answers to your questions on the 12th of May, and the overall picture is clearly visible with the table sheets with changes. We have been following the feedback closely, and we see that while some players generally agree with us, we also see that there are players who feel that these changes are not helpful to them. For this reason, we have decided not to implement the economy changes from the 16th of May. Now, there is one thing they could do to actually ease people's minds when it comes to these economy changes, and that's ratios. Ratios are incredibly important when it comes to analyzing data. The reason for this is because it can simplify stuff for the general person. A ratio needs to be done between the average either increase or decrease in repair cost per vehicle and the also modifiers which are being changed on this. So if you can work out the average repair cost decrease and then the ratio of that, of the average reward decrease, how much do people lose while also having the repair cost go down? Because they've talked about the two positives of the new system there, where a bunch of vehicles did get their repair costs reduced. They've also not mentioned that a lot of vehicles got their repair costs increased. But they also talked about the reduction of research points, which is fantastic. It overall went down by about 1.25 million RP, which I think is quite good. So equal to basically 3 or 4 high tier or top tier vehicles, which is nice. But the one thing that needs to be noted in all of these economical changes is none of that, because that's really easy to look at. The thing that needs to be pointed out when it comes to these economy changes, and this is how you either win or lose people when it comes to this, is what is the ratio of loss between the repair cost and the reward cost. So on average, how much is a person losing when you change the rewards compared to how much they are gaining when it comes to repairs? That's all you've got to do. That's all you've got to show. And then people will either be for or against it based on that number. As long as that number is positive, then people will be fine with it. If that number is negative, then people won't be fine with it. The fact that it hasn't been shown, and the fact that it would take basically days to work out, because you'd have to do every single vehicle and then go from there, and then also know the calculations behind how reward works as well, instead of basing it off averages, that is something that Gaijin have to present themselves. So if you are worried about community like blowback when it comes to these things, no matter what economy change you make, even if you reduce like RP across the board, there will be people against this. I actually saw somebody say that these changes were positive without obviously reading them or without understanding them, because it made it harder for people to get into top tier, therefore they would have more experience getting into top tier. That was their opinion on this. So a person who was in favor of increasing the grind for people because, I don't know, they're entitled, I'm guessing. But when it comes to this, that is what needs to be shown. Nothing else matters. Just that specific ratio right there, and that will either make or break these arguments. And usually, when it comes to these types of things, I always talk about how context overall matters. And it does, in this case, as always. But we've gone through all of the context. They've shown all of the context and how everything goes through. And obviously, there is a set of people who are unhappy with this. So what has to be shown is the next step. And once you do that, it's done. It's finished. The other thing they're going to do, or should do, if I was them, would do this now instead of the way that they've done. They do it incrementally. So they do it a slight bit every time. Just do one bit every week. If you want to actually get this to the point of where it was before without people actually noticing, all you do is you just do slight changes, slight tweaks here and there all the time, and then you bundle it into a major update when it comes to the defoldering of vehicles, and then you folder other ones at higher echelons to be able to make up for it. That's all you gotta do. It's really simple. It's really dumb psychology, and yes, I know we shouldn't be doing this, and yada yada yada, but if these are the changes that want to be pushed through, that's how you end up doing them. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this, as a viewer of this, is so you can watch for these things. Look at data mines and also look at other things. Because if I, or if any company was trying to sneak some of these things in, the way you do it is incrementally. They also said, we believe that the game and its changes should create positive emotions, and that players' emotions are more important to us than calculations and numbers. In the future, we will try to better explain our actions and their benefits for players, and also encourage you to leave constructive feedback or constructive requests and questions in a special form. So if you follow the link in the description, you can throw in, your opinions and what you want to chuck in. I would be very careful with this. Very, very careful with this. Basing logical decisions on emotion is a really bad idea, especially when you are dealing with a business. If you are going to react to a very aggressive set of people who, if you sat them down, would not be able to explain to you the economy of War Thunder, you are just going to end up in a poo-flinging contest, basically, which is just not going to work. You cannot make these decisions on emotion. You have to make them based on stats. You have to. And if you don't make them based on stats and start making stuff based on emotion or heart feeling or anything like that, we're going to go down a very, very dark road very quickly, because that's what ends up happening in a lot of other areas of kind of society. And I'm not going to go into it because whenever I do, people just get annoyed at me because, of course, polarization is a fun thing, especially in the Western world. But the main issue right now is you need to stick to your guns when it comes to these things. You need to read the data, analyze it, and push through with what you think is right. Just remove the emotional part of it, for the love of God. Because if you just start mixing or trying to mix emotional states and also statistics, and also realize that people can be disingenuous when it comes to these things, and a lot of people are, especially when money is concerned, when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to creating content, or when, popularity is concerned when it comes to these things as well, and people realize what is the easiest thing to push forward and the easiest thing to do, then you're just going to end up at a dead end. For me, in situations when it's come to the stuff that I've had to do when it comes to, my business side of things, not my online stuff, but my actual real job stuff, sticking to my guns has always been a better idea, even if it hurts in the short term. So we'll have to see what Gaijin decides to do. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.